In today's video, I'm going to talk about the sexual power that a woman possesses and the effects that it can have on a red pill man as well as other men in general. But a man who is currently in a relationship and is actively working to leave it. So, guys, I want you to realize that these videos are not just for those who are currently engaging in a red pill binge, alright. This is also to help that man who is learning of MGTOW, men who are maybe were marked out one pal but fell back into a relationship, men who are currently in a dating relationship and are trying to get relief from it. This is also to help that man who is learning of MGTOW, men who are currently in a dating relationship and are trying to get relief from it. Therefore, the division happens when that we label the men who have gone back with women and exile them from the community, so that that Christ said he was going to come to heal the sick. This is the thing that's making all of us sick, especially when it comes to having sex with a woman who we shouldn't be having sex with because she gives you the power and she takes it away from you. We're all sick about this. She knows that this is what you do when you're in a relationship and you're trying to leave it. Or even when you're in a relationship and you're not making the effort to leave but are simply seeing glimpses of the need to take. She knows all the sex-related things that happen when you're in this situation. The red pill is that you hit what I call the red pill reset button. It's kind of like how you can also be seen as kind of the blue pill rewind. If you take the red pill, you will find out that you have taken the blue pill. I don't care what you like, whatever you like. I don't know if you're watching VHS or playing N64, but in these stages and in these situations, sex does nothing more than bring you back to stage one. And to bring you to your knees in many different circumstances, as well as, in my opinion, a lot of peas and a lot of people who pump and dump. You are aware that solely based on that line of thought, they are most likely going to disagree with what I'm saying here, and they are most likely going to discount the power that it has over them, and they are probably going to refute me, but that I'm going to show you 3 things as to why this is such a dangerous reset button, and why it should also, you should just be aware of this. And the power that it does have when you give a woman sex. Number 1, this is probably the most important because it affects your whole life, guys. She carries a piece of you away with her, and you carry a piece of her away with you. And the power that it does have when you give a woman sex. Number 2, this is probably the second most important because it affects your whole life. As much as our society tries to convince us that this is not the case, the reality is that it is. And this holds true not only for women but also for men who have had a number of sexual partners in the past, as it does for me and the relationships that I had. And in Greek, when you have sex, the word in sex you're joining with the woman, and in Greek join also means to be glued to, and think of an image when you're gluing something together and you aim to pull it apart. That's what join means. That I had. And in Greek, when you have sex, the word in sex you're joining with the woman. I don't care if it's a piece of paper or 2 pieces of paper, as long as you're licking the sticky part of that envelope, sticking it to the rest of the envelope, and calling it a day. Only to realize that you need to change something on the letter, or that you forgot to put something inside. You try your best to pull it apart tactfully, but you end up realizing that you need to change something on the letter. But regardless of what you do, each end of the envelope is going to take a portion of that envelope with it. The envelope is no longer complete. It will never be the same as it was before. Just a few specks of paper, but it's not the same as it was when it was first made, when you send that envelope to Dallas, Denver, Detroit, and Washington, D.C. I do not care where you send it to or where it goes. Regardless of where it goes, both sides of the envelope crease are going to have part of the other end of it, alright. They are going to share each other, and you understand what I'm trying to say here in spite of the chest-beating bravado. I do not care where you send it to or where it goes. I can pump and dump and forget about this woman who is being preached out there on many channels as the way to go. In addition, you are a long-term investment yourself. This is something that is being said all over the place. And even though you might not realize the effect that it has on you, I can assure you that it is already having an effect on me and the 2 inappropriate partners in sexual activity that I have chosen. You carry her energy, and if she has some darkness in her, you carry the feelings that she has. There is a lot of research on this topic. And it's possible that you won't notice it for another 20 years. That they even carry a part of her DNA, and it's possible that you won't find out about it until you're sitting with your feet in the sand drinking a cold one while you're retired. You may not see it for the next 10 years, You may not see it, so, even if you're toiling away at your desk at work one day, you may not see it. But it will be there all right, and the bottom line is that this is one of the risks that the PUA movement as a whole just completely ignores you for. If you put yourself in danger, regardless of whether or not you are aware that there are no conditions attached, you expose yourself to an undetermined emotional risk. When you enter Shelob's lair because she love wants you there, and you believe that you have to pass through there in order to get to the other side, but instead, you find yourself in the same situation as Frodo did. You've gotten yourself into a bind, which brings me to point number 2 in her web, which is that although sex is the primary factor that will likely keep you there, there are many other factors as well. This idea comes from people whose minds will never die. He is probably one of my most favorite MGTOW men on the internet today, and in this video he discusses the Black Widow and not only her alluring but also her vile nature. After using her venom to render you immobile, she will simply stab you in the area in question, at which point she will have you frothing at the mouth if you despise the Lord of the Rings. Apologies for the comparison, but we're kind of like Frodo and Shelob's lair. We know where we need to end up, and we know where we need to go to get there, but it's a long way off, and her path is risky, but it's also quick and it's shorter. Perhaps you still have 3 months of work to go. Sorry about that. You have 3 months ahead of you, and perhaps some family issues have arisen, and you don't know how you're going to get through it. You don't have a crutch, and that's okay. And the female in this scenario is frequently thought to be the solution, and it is expected of her that she will help those who are stressed out and heal those wounds during that time because, it seems like that shortcut. It seems as though it's going to speed up that process, but you run the risk of getting caught up in inner war, where women's webs are everywhere and extend far beyond the 3 months of time at work that you have a project on the line and your career is on the line. It will not serve to divert your attention, rather, it will envelop you. If you take the red pill but do not engage in sexual activity with a woman, you may find that you are unable to move forward. It is the chemical release and union that is created then that is responsible for why, despite the fact that society says it is not powerful, it is a drug that has been scientifically shown to resemble the dopamine release that heroin gives us. When you have an organ as orgasm very similar, you know it's the same thing, but heroin is looked at not even close to being the same way heroin is perceived as it should be to be. On the other hand, sex, particularly with the dime, can help you overcome the effects of this drug, which will render you helpless against its power and from which you will never be able to free yourself. Perhaps she exudes a certain magnetic energy, despite the fact that she is not in any way perceived to be like that heroin. They are not the same, but it is disregarded as almost having any power, and men are expected to take the heat for this prior to getting tied down with a woman. In addition to that, I'll speak on behalf of the woman who was my very first girlfriend. She was one of those girls who, when you saw her for the first time, you never forgot it. You remember the times that you interact with her even if she has no idea that you are even the other one talking to her on the other end. She was beautiful, good athlete, she was a mix of a blonde brunette and somehow red. She was a mixed girl. You remember the times that you interact with her even if she has no idea that you are even the other one talking to her on the other end. She was beautiful, good athlete, she was a mix. I was completely trapped in her web and couldn't get out of it no matter how hard I tried. I was on my knees with my hands up eating out of her hands, and you should know that if she made me jump off a bridge, I probably would. I was completely dependent on her. I was attempting to cut it away, but I couldn't because she had me over the promise of sex and, other things that would boost my ego. I needed to move on because my life was falling apart because of it, whatever it was that I was missing, and there was nothing outside of that she was really adding to my life. That was step 1, and step 2 was being honest man a lot of the time. We find ourselves in these precarious situations when we've taken a blue pill, and the most important thing to remember when you've taken a blue pill is to stay calm and collected under pressure. It is with women or just at work because your ultimate goal is to be a people pleaser and to do as the world wants you to do as a man, who is to give over your power, and you can hit a million other reset buttons or start buttons even with a woman. This is because your ultimate goal is to be a people pleaser. When you are in a red pill phase, but you come across a tantalizing female, things like this include doing anything that you normally wouldn't do for a guy friend, such as moving when he asks you to move. He asks you to, put something together at his house. He asks you to watch his dog, maybe it's not convenient for you, and you say no. He asks you to help him put something together at his house. But what does it say about you if she asks you something to which you would normally refuse to respond negatively if it came from a male friend, your mother, or your brother, and yet you answer her in the affirmative? Why does she get that priority? And if you normally want to do this for your brother, the blue pill is trying to force its way down your esophagus in order to get her and buy her something that she is already familiar with. For guys who are already in a relationship, the fact that she likes them and has liked them throughout the relationship is another one of these reset buttons that it reestablishes. The status quo, and that is the one thing that you need to smash, is the status quo, not her alright. There are many more. The blue reset button is dangerous because your finger is closer to it than you think. And number 3, this does not apply to all women in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to lay out the ones that don't really, but she's going to expect companionship from a biological standpoint, and the woman in her 20s is the main exception to this rule, which is one of the few exceptions to this rule overall that I see all the time. That is, I'll find a good guy one day, right? Right. I'm going to start wearing crop tops from now on. I'm going to dance on tables. I'm just going to chalk up all of my life choices to the influence of tequila. Because I am a woman, people tend to watch out for me and make sure that everything turns out okay. So don't worry about any of that. It's fine, but the one and only exception is the married woman who is so bored in her relationship that she just wants to have an affair because her marriage is failing and she wants to satisfy her need for dopamine. She does not anticipate having company. However, it is possible that she will do so at some point in the future. More likely, however, she just wants to have a release so that she can feel good about something in her life. She feels like a failure because she is unable to provide for her family, which includes her marriage and her children, and because she is unable to work. The third participant is a woman who has POTS weather. It is relating to a traumatic experience sexually, a traumatic experience resulting from abandonment, a traumatic experience resulting from social isolation, and so on. In order to numb these things, we replace our sense of worthlessness with the sensation of being needed, and to cover that up, we're going to go with whatever is the quickest solution. It's almost as if you're starving and you're in the middle of the desert and you haven't eaten yet, because we live in a society that's very focused on instant gratification. And just when you think you've got it all figured out, the rescue helicopter arrives to whisk you away and bring you back to safety. You are not going to reach for a spinach salad, rather, you are going to reach for that high-fat, high-sugar food that rips through you like a knife through butter. Away, whether it's the chocolate cake or a giant burger or whatever it is, stay away from the fridge at night, guys. Same concept, but she will treat sex much like that and likely won't expect it. Any companionship from you, and this is what I experienced in my 2 dating relationships. They both had serious traumas and they built walls, but for the women that don't have those experiences, they don't build walls. Because it is in the nature of a woman to associate the man with whom she is having sex to be the man who she has to stick around until the proverbial baby is at least born, they are going to expect companionship from the man with whom they are having sex. Even if you are unable to impregnate her, it is still our natural instinct to care for her, and we have a responsibility to do so. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship that you're trying to get out of. This is the kind of reset button that will put you in danger if you're in a relationship for a long time. That should not be the case, and women frequently view the world through the lens of vengeance. Therefore, eye for an eye and tit for tit, as Hammurabi's code specifies. When it comes to these women, there is no such thing as turning the other cheek, and if you deny her the opportunity to have sexual relations with you, she will demand X, Y, and Z from you, and who knows for how long. All right. The ratio of sex to obligations that you have to fulfill on her part varies from woman to woman. It's possible that after having sex with her just once, she expects you to continue to fulfill these obligations for at least another week. It could be a ratio of 3 days to 1 sexual encounter, or it could be no one time of having sex equaling 1 month of slavery. Who knows? It's another concept that I'll bring up, but it's very possible that something like this could take place. Therefore, man has never been successful in breaking the enchantment of sex, because sex is the one quality that a woman possesses that cannot be obtained in the same manner by either a man or another woman. When a man is not around her, and women are aware of this, they are similar to the offensive coordinator who studies film all week. They are aware of who they have on their team. They are aware of what they possess and what the defense is going to throw at them. They are aware that they are playing a 4-3 defense and that they do not have the nickel and dime package out there. They are fully aware of everything, are fully aware of what they are capable of doing well, are fully aware of what you are incapable of doing, and know that down the road, where you go out on walks, you are going to have coffee with her. Because if you do what I do, you end up taking the blue pill and putting everything else on the back burner, and if you are aware that this is how you operate, you need to pay even closer attention to the reset button. It is a colon cleanser for the red pill, and it has rendered me immobile.